The Bite Me podcast is coming right up, and it is brought to you every week right here on YouTube by Freedom Boats. It is the best shallow running boat on the water, and there is a model perfect for you. The Chiquita 14, the Eagle 16, the Patriot 18, the Commander 21, the beautiful Warrior like I have 23, or the big boy that runs so shallow, the General 26. Chet Moore and Pooty can customize it however you'd like, and there's a dealer near you, whether it's the Boatyard in Kemah or dealerships in San Antonio, Beaumont, Corpus Christi, Port O'Connor, Houston, and Aransas Pass. Freedom Boats or freedomboatsusa.com. All right, everybody, welcome into the Bite Me podcast. And let me say this right off of the top. All right, right off the top. I normally only drink coffee in the morning, but about 45 minutes ago, I had a 20-ounce espresso cold brew, and I am popping right now, man. I'm going. The last thing you guys want to see is me on caffeine in the middle of the day, but it's happening. I don't know if it's going to make for a good podcast or a bad podcast start.
I think we should just let you roll for 55 minutes and just sit back and watch.
I was kidding when I said that, and I think it bumped me off when I was talking about, the old line. It sounds like I'm talking fast. Am I talking fast? Does it sound like I'm talking fast? I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, I am hopped up a little bit. So I'm excited for the podcast. Let's get into it, man. Caleb is not here. I think he's trying to find fish. That's going to be my story until I hear otherwise. He said that the winds are keeping him on the water a little longer than usual, but we've all been there. Got to get him on some fish. Captain Scott Null is right in front of me. Captain Dean Thomas is right in front of me. And we are good to go. We got a lot to cover here. But let's start with a little news we got at the end of last week. We're number 3. We're worldwide, man. We are number 3. If you didn't see it on FeedSpot, they listed the top 30 podcasts in the world. Some ice fishing podcast up in British Columbia, I think, was on the list. Podcast from Australia, podcast from New Zealand. So that's pretty good. Dean, did you ever think have you ever been ranked worldwide in anything?
In my own mind.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
Maybe one. So who? How do they compile that data? Where was the? They didn't call and ask me.
Well, you would have had us number 1. The way I figured it, and I did do a little digging in. The way I figured it is they look at the podcasts that have, the biggest audiences, of course, the most loyal audiences, of course. And then there's a factor in there that I think is really working in our favor is consistency. And you guys know we've been doing it since October of 2018. Have never missed a week. I think there was one where I had to do a little bit of finagling, but we did get the podcast posted. And so congrats, man. I was really proud of it. Scott, you should be very proud of it. Dean, you as well. Caleb as well. And of course, no one else more than our listeners who are doing that. So a little bit of a pat on the old back. But Scott, have you ever been ranked worldwide in anything? I know you almost caught a world record fish.
Not that I can think of.
Well, there we are. We can finally say we are at something. Couple of other things before we get started on the topics. And that is shout outs to all the latest confirmed sponsors for the Feeding Frenzy. Obligatory reminder to everybody you can book your hotel room with a great rate that's specific for us. You can RSVP. I think we're right at 200 or so in terms of RSVPs. We're paying for the first 200 meals, but we want 500 plus people there. And you can also buy some raffle tickets for the Freedom Patriot boat, 19-foot boat with the Suzuki motor and the coastline trailer, the whole 9 yards. But Gabriella's restaurant in Rockport is the latest to join us. Obviously, the Shootout has joined us. We have commitments from numerous people, including Chet at Freedom Boats and many more. But that's the latest update there. So be sure to take care of the people that are going to be taking care of us on September 20th. Okay, so let's get this was an idea that was hatched from Captain Dean Thomas's brain, which usually can be dangerous. but I think it's a pretty good one. I think it's a pretty good idea. A lot of times
I get lucky.
A lot of times,
if I could just remember all the great ideas that I get when I'm out there on the boat,
yeah,
and bring them home to the house, because it seems like if I didn't write them down or make a note somewhere, they just go out the window. But
well, I told you, text me as soon as you get one. Just say, "I'm gonna text John." That's what Scott does. Yeah, that's what Scott does.
Well, if I remember to do that, then I will do that. I mean, a lot of times, I'm kind of busy out there at the moment. It's like, whoa, this is a great idea, and then it just
text me like 2 words, and I'll remind you. I remind you.
My great ideas stay in my head long enough to text.
Yeah,
these are very fleeting.
But I might. You never know. But I shall make an effort into the next one.
But the idea is, a lot of times I say, "Hey, what's up? What you been doing?" Let's make it a little more formal. And I'm calling it the 3 W's, because at the end of the show, we talk about what would Scott do, what would Dean do, what would Caleb do. That's for the coming week and weekend. But a lot of people, as including ourselves, we gain our information and want to know what you've been on. And I'm calling it the 3 W's. We'll call it the 3 W's moving forward. We'll start every show with that. Where were you? What you did? And what you noticed. Now, what you noticed doesn't necessarily have to be patterns or anything. Kind of a pseudo fishing report. It could be, obviously a nice way to get into the show about what's happening on the water, what you noticed, conditions. So, what are the 3 W's? Where were you? What you did and what you noticed. I'm gonna start with Scott, because Dean looks like he's contemplating.
I was trying to remember what I did.
I was doing my usual Port O'Connor. I tried all different kind of places. I went in backwaters. I went in open shorelines. I fished little bayous. I mean, I pulled a lot of different stuff. What I noticed was it was early. I mean, even though it was overcast and we had some rain, we had little rain showers pop up and come through.
Mm-hmm.
We had some serious wind Monday,
or
Sunday. Sunday we had like a 50-mile-an-hour wind for a little front that blew, or something that blew in. And it rained really, really hard. So I was kind of thinking on Tuesday that, that would have the oxygen levels up, and might have a little off color water, but the oxygen levels would be good with the wind and the rain, and maybe cool off a little.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a summertime, middle summer pattern. They were very, very active at daylight and up until about 9 o'clock. Had tails, had, good little schools moving, some singles. And then all of a sudden, man, it was like a light switch.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just shut off about 9:30, 10 o'clock. It was done.
Mm-hmm.
We pushed on through, on yesterday, just trying to see if we could get something else going. But the water was a little bit off color. It felt good to touch. Touching the water didn't have that bathtub nasty feeling. But there's not a lot of fish activity going on.
Mm-hmm. What about? Excuse me, coughed. What about down south? I have a couple of ideas that I picked up on, but I'm not Dean Thomas. Dean, you were on the water 6-7 days in a row. Where were you? What you did, and what you noticed?
Well, I've been all over the place. I mean, we started the week with higher than normal tides, which let me get back in a lot of flats that are normally inaccessible to a bigger boat. And we fished a lot of the drop-offs during the week, had some rain showers, a lot, like Scott said, nothing real dramatic that got, the showers that passed over me lasted like 5 or 10 minutes. There were a couple days in the morning before we launched that there was some, like about 4 o'clock in the morning, there was some pretty substantial rain. And I actually thought it was going to cool it off, that the water temperatures would drop a little bit. But we still got water temperatures in the high 80s, and it did not cool the water off. I mean, it was not enough rain and cloud cover to calm that down. But, I mean, redfish have been really good. Whenever the tide is high, when I can get into those places, speckled trout have been very consistent in the drop-offs. One interesting thing that has taken place for like the last 2 weeks is that there's tons of mullet on the flats. There's mullet from wall to wall, but they're not jumping. They're not feisty. They're not showing themselves. I mean, it's just we're casting into uneventful water, just blind casting early in the morning before you can see what's going on, and getting, you know, crazy big blow ups from just quiet water. If a bird flies over, like a bird shadow goes across the flat, you'll see them from side to side. The mullet are everywhere. And then later in the day, when the sun comes up and you can see into the water, I mean, the flats are covered with mullet and baitfish, but they have just not been jumping. It is just, I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, normally at this time of year, it's like a mullet circus. It's just noisy with mullet jumping, and they're there, but they're hanging low. They're just attached to the bottom instead of the surface.
Well, y'all touched on a couple of things there that I want to follow up on. I like this topic, by the way, Dean. We can dig in a little better on what we're seeing, and then follow up at the end with the what would you do stuff. You mentioned the rain, Scott. I experienced it. I actually got to fish again yesterday because I'm off all week long. That's why I'm juiced up on caffeine. But anyway, so I fished Sunday and Monday, and one thing I noticed, you said it shut down at 9:30. It did for me too, and then about 11:30, it lit back up again, and I couldn't explain it. I don't know if you were experiencing the same thing.
No, it got really hot and still, and everything just kind of quit. You know, just all the activity. There was a lot of surface activity early, a lot of movement, you know, and some tails, and like I said, just the good stuff. You know, what you're looking for. And I was hoping it was going to continue. You know, most of the day is overcast, and had that one little rain shower come. Well, actually, it was 3 rain showers in a row. Took the rain jacket off, put it back on. Take it off, put it back on. But it just didn't pan out that way.
Yeah,
there was also a lot of shrimp. Dean mentioned mullet. We had a lot of mullet around, all sizes, little bitty finger mullet on up to those giant, big mullet, and ones that look like redfish when they come out of the grass.
Yeah.
But the number of inch-long shrimp along the edges of the marsh was really impressive.
Well, that's good information right there. Oh, and then I was going to talk about the rain, and Dean, I know you have some info on this as well. Those little, I dealt with 2 or 3, never really got rained on, but they were all around us. That's a product of something happening out in the Gulf, isn't it?
Well, it's it got as big as a tropical storm that went into Tampico, Mexico. And I'm sitting here looking at the radar now. Believe me, we got a bunch of rain still coming our way that was expected to kind of fade away by today, but it looks pretty substantial, and I think it's going to carry on till tomorrow morning. And one other interesting thing that, I mean, I would like to hear how, if Scott saw the same thing. We were out early on a couple of those days, and the days that we were up against the grass, up against the shoreline, we had redfish crawling out of the water. I mean, they were crawling through the mangrove roots up almost onto the dirt. I mean, they couldn't have gotten any further without being on land and pushing their way through the roots. They're hard to catch when they're like that, throwing straight at the shoreline. But we paralleled a couple of them where we're up at the shoreline and threw out in front of them, and they just destroyed anything that got in front of their face. But that was early morning action. First 30 minutes as the sun was coming up. I mean, these redfish were crawling, but didn't see any of. Later in the day, everything was in the middle of the flats.
Did you see that too, Scott?
Well, my tide's super high, and the reds were back in the trees. You could hear them crashing stuff. All the dead mangroves everywhere that we've got, all have 6-8 inches of water under them right now. And there are definitely redfish hanging out back in there. Saw a few of them crawl out, and come back out into the main water. But most of them were so far back in there, it wasn't even a chance to go look for them.
Right. Well,
and we heard that too, though. We heard some crashing back in the bushes that you could not get to, but along the edges, we saw a lot of that. But it has been an interesting week. We have seen a little bit of everything.
Oh my gosh, my wife was so heartbroken. I didn't even tell you the second part of it, Dean. She she's only been fishing about 3 years. She was just never into it. Now she couldn't be more into it. She's talking about doing hotties on the harbor with Carrie and all this other stuff, but she caught the biggest trout of her life on Sunday, and it was a wrap. I mean, she had it. It was hooked. It was already profiling right under our feet on the boat. Looked like it was every bit of 25 and fat, and I'm getting the net, and whoosh, a dolphin came and took it. And I just told her, just told her, oh, don't worry, a dolphin won't take it right off of your line. I mean, we've had them mouth them and kind of, debilitate them. And then when you throw them back, they eat them. But I guess this was just such a big, juicy, fat meal. And it was already tired, and it was right under our feet in the front of the boat. And that dolphin came, and she just about cried. She was taking pictures of the dolphin so she could, point it out in a lineup. She wanted to press charges. She was so mad at the dolphin, and then it stayed right around us. And oh my gosh, I just felt so. I mean, it was the biggest trout of her life. It was every bit as big as people dream about. It was easily 25 in the old proverbial football. And then, Dean, I didn't even tell you this yesterday. We stayed out there till 1 o'clock. We were planning on getting off the water about 11:30. But right about, I was telling you about how 11:30 it lit back up. We were on this ridge, and those redfish were right underneath the drop offs. Like, I mean, right on it, kind of like you're talking about with the mangroves, but on a drop off. And so we're casting, just trying to wrap up the day. Whoa, she had one of those that just came up for her top, and she threw a top water. Came up for her top water where it looked like it was just a bull. I mean, just whoa, y'all have seen them where it's like gone. She hooks it. She's fighting it. She's probably got it on. I mean, it's a good 3-4 minute fight. Once again, I mean, it was upper slot as clear as day. I mean, I saw it. I saw the shoulders, everything. She was fighting it. She tried to bring it over some rocks. And you know where I'm talking about. We fished, Dean. And right on those rocks, either the lure or the fish or something hit the rocks, and boop, there it goes again. So she had the trout of a lifetime and a clear upper slot fat 9-pound or more redfish. Lost them both in consecutive days.
They give it, then they take it away. I have told people for years, those flats are strewn with broken hearts. They are. And it's kind of crazy because those are the ones that you never forget. You'll catch a big fish, and you get your picture and say la vie, good fish. The one that gets away for some reason seems to stick with you a little longer.
She was talking about it this morning.
Yeah, she probably had nightmares all night.
She was talking about it this morning. I mean, it was a hoss. There's no doubt about it. Poor thing, but yeah, that was a broken heart.
And one more thing that I'll add about this week that was pretty interesting. We were throwing topwaters, and we were fishing a tournament Saturday with me and my buddy Kevin, and he sticks with soft plastics. He likes to throw, because he's Bassmaster dude. He loves the bass fishing is his game. So he throws a lot of swim baits. And I tell you what, man, I mean, I hate to admit it, but I may have learned a little bit this weekend, because the topwaters were still getting hit good. I mean, we both did really good, but he tended to find more fish and hook more fish with the swim bait, not sight casting, just kind of blind casting the sand holes. But the paddle tail with just a steady retrieve under the surface, man, that thing was quite effective. And it was just a like a mullet colored gray and white, just a real, nothing elaborate, nothing flamboyant. And man, that thing, it got a lot of looks. He did throw it when we went out to the deeper water where we were catching trout. The ball tail shad tended to do quite better than the swim bait there. But I think that the ball tail sinks really fast. It's got a different up and down motion in the water, where the swim bait kind of tends to run parallel in the water. Just my theory, whether that mattered or not, On the flats, the swim bait was killing it, and on the drop off, the ball tail tend to get it. But I mean, we caught a lot of reds on Topwater too. We actually caught some nice trout early on the flats on Topwaters as well.
Was it weedless?
Yes,
Yeah.
with the weight on the shank,
Yeah.
like an 1/8 ounce with a pretty big hook. It's like a 5/0 hook.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that ties in directly with our next topic. So good on you, because we got a question about on water adjustments, and not just, and we can talk about lures and what you're talking about, not just changing lures and colors, but a lot of times there are adjustments to be made. Whether it's, and I actually kind of experienced this and wanted to make sure and get it on the sheet, the run sheet today, because Jan, I've been fishing a lot with Jan, and I always put her on the front of the boat and I'm on the back of the boat. And so sometimes if the boat is pointed a certain direction, I want to be casting to her side. Sometimes if we're going perpendicular with the wind, I'll change baits and I'll have a shorter rod, just so I can, because it's a little more cramped in the back of the boat. What are some of the how important, let me put it this way, Scott, some of the on-water adjustments that people don't make seem to be some things that maybe keep them from fishing? What are some things that you've noticed?
Mostly on the tarpon stuff, you got to adjust up and down the jetties, back and forth, depending on how strong the tide is. Yeah, jetty fishing is like that. Not just the tarpon, everything. The beginnings of the tide, the end of the tide, the middle of it, when it's really ripping, you got to move around and find the comfort zone for the fish. And it's different from day to day, because it's not always ripping the same today as it is tomorrow. A lot of that has to do with the wind. You got wind pushing in, it's going to be stronger. Tide going out, wind pushing in, it's going to be weaker. Sometimes it just stops. Watching all of that, you have to adjust. And I move all over the place. Anybody that's fished with me on the rocks knows I'm constantly moving, because I'll see the fish starting to work towards the end of the jetties, and then they'll be at the middle of the jetties, and they'll be at the base. And it's just very, very slight tide changes, and they'll move 200, 300 yards.
Now, Dean, you were talking about changing the brakes and the way you're casting, because we've been dealing with so much wind. That's another adjustment on the water that people don't do.
Yeah, especially if you've been casting in 25-mile-an-hour wind the day before, and then you come out the next day and it's like 5-mile-an-hour wind. You have to kind of tune in for that, which I've seen that go wrong. One thing, I mean, and how this ties into this subject, maybe not, but I've always been a fan of the Power Pro V-Slick braid and the High Seas Quattro braid. And I was running low on my supplies, and I had the Seagar braid that came from you. And I spooled up the Seagar. I think it's called the Smackdown is the one that I used. And man, that stuff was amazing. I always kind of felt that braid is braid. It's kind of almost like interchangeable. But man, that Seagar actually put a couple more yards on my cast. So, I mean, changing line, it's not something that you do every day. And with me, when I have something that I have confidence in, I'm leery about changing, because I don't want to mess up something that's good. But I spooled up spinners and bait casters, and man, that stuff was great. But as far as the conditions go and shit, I fish like John on a 20-ounce cold brew espresso. I'm always 2 or 3 moves ahead in my brain of what I'm fixing to do. So I don't know if it's consciously or subconsciously, but I mean, it's if it's not happening, if I'm just not feeling it, sometimes I pull up to a spot and I sit there 5 minutes, and it's like, man, I'm just not feeling this. Let's make a move. But sticking with, I mean, in my area in Redfish Bay and the flats and the drop offs, I stay pretty consistent on lures. I mean, I don't change a lot of lures. I don't change a lot of colors. I stick with that. But I move to a lot of spots throughout the day.
Yeah, and it's really funny that you just mentioned that the Seagar line, because that's one of the things, Scott. I know you are spooling up some stuff, and we're, you know, a lot of times we're like everybody else. We tend to get a little bit hard headed on what we like to throw, etc. But that's what he just talked about with the braid. It's absolutely true, and maybe that's an adjustment that you need to make on the water. Because I'll tell you the other thing, you know, fishing the top water on those rocks, you know, the braid didn't, the braid I threw, I mean, the leader I threw with my top water was tough. I mean, it didn't come off because of that. It came off because something hit the rocks on the top water, or the fish hit it or something, and it just spit the hook. The braid and the top water were fine, but that stuff, maybe that's something you do when you're fishing over rocks and in some, you know, maybe some tougher conditions. You put a better, you know, a better leader on there, or a better braid. But I know you just got some cool stuff as well.
Yep. I'm gonna change things up a little bit this year on my tarpon side, and all, you know, just all the heavy stuff. I got some 60 and 80 pound hollow core braid from, I think it's called Tight Lock or something like that, from Seagar. And everything I read about it, everything I've talked to different people, everybody seems to love it. And I've watched Camille laughed at me because I was watching a whole bunch of videos on how to use it. But it's hollow core, and you stuff your leader inside the hollow core. They've got these needles that should be here tomorrow, and you run it up inside of it, and it's like the Chinese finger lock thing.
Yeah,
it
goes in and it just kind of grabs it if you're looking at the video, and,
yeah.
and it doesn't come out.
Well, you have to do some ties. You know, there's some things to do to secure it. But one guy in particular I was watching, he's catching 600-700 pound tuna doing it this way. So I figure if he's doing that, I should be good with my tarpon and bull reds and jacks and stuff.
Yeah.
And the big advantage of it is you don't have that knot, because I'm using 60 and 80 pound leaders with fluorocarbon on these tarpon. And you start tying any knot, I don't care what kind of knot you got, it's going to rattle like hell going through the guides. And this is just a smooth transition from braid to a leader without having those knots. And that'll help with the casting distance, and mostly it'll help with just my nerves. That knot gets on every last nerve I got when it goes rattling through there. And then they constantly hang up, and we're using, you know, 6-7 foot long leaders, 8 foot leaders sometimes, depending on what size fish we're chasing. And when you go to reel it back in, invariably that knot hits just wrong on one of those guides, and it'll hang up. And now you got 6 feet of leader hanging out, and you got tarpon rolling in front of you, and it gets a little frustrating at times. So it works. Everybody I've talked to out of Florida and different places, they're really liking it. They're liking the ability to do that. Somebody just wrote on there, you need a uni. You need a uni with 80 pound. It'll make a knot. You can tie a knot with it and it'll hold, but you ain't getting it through those guides very well.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard to cinch down that
very,
stuff.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
It doesn't like grab onto itself. It wants to unravel. It doesn't have that friction thing. And one other thing to follow up on the comment there, John, about the not using a leader and going straight to braid. Leader is an amazing insurance policy. Fluorocarbon leader will say it'll save some fish for you. It can get scratched, it can get bit, it can get a little worn out, it can get frayed, and it is still going to be way stronger than the braid itself. And I use 10 or 15 pound braid to cast really far. I mean, it's strong. It'll catch the biggest fish on the flats, but tying straight, the weakest link in the connection is your knot. Because I went to set the hook on this one badass fish And as soon as it came tight, boom, it was gone. I mean, and it wasn't, it was obviously a weakness in the line, because as soon as it went tight, it just snapped off. And
Yeah.
it was about 10 feet above the leader.
Mhm.
So if you don't monitor that and keep it fresh, it can be the result of another broken heart.
Yeah, and the comment you're referencing is Jay, who, by the way, is working on a donation for the Feeding Frenzy. Was talking about he likes to tie his lures directly to the braid. I've said it on this podcast. I've done that myself numerous times, and I do it a lot. But oftentimes it's mostly because I'm lazy on the water and I just want to tie it on there real quick and not tie the uni knot. But I'm telling you, if you can and you take that extra time, that it makes a big difference. And it did for her, this weekend, and for me this weekend. We caught a bunch of fish on those rocks and no problems when it's getting frayed, etc. But the other thing, and to keep it simple, with the Seagar, I'll use the gold label and the blue label. The gold label is to me my go-to, and then they have the Grand Max, which is the one that is imported from Japan, and that thing is like off the charts good. Like, it is off the charts good.
Man,
And
I got a spool of that Grand Max.
it's so good.
Well, I couldn't figure out what it was because it's
imported from Japan.
It is in
don't read
Japanese. And I couldn't figure out what the little symbol behind the number meant.
Well, now you know.
And I looked at it. I kind of visually estimated that it was like, hey, it looks looks right.
Looks good to me.
But I wasn't sure. So,
hey, Caleb, you are back on unmuted, but there's been a bit of a glitch whenever I don't have you muted. So hopefully it's better now. But we're talking about just some of the on-water adjustments, and it kind of morphed into lines and leaders and what we're throwing now, and the importance of those leaders on the water, of going ahead and taking that extra step and tying it on, because a lot of the conditions, and you're on Oyster Reef, and that's why I wanted to get your thought on this before we moved on. Scott, you know what I'm talking about. We've all fished, and Dean, you lived in you lived down there for a long time in Sargent. Oyster Reef, leader is crucial.
yeah.
Use fluorocarbon if you're going to fish around oysters. Fluorocarbon will hold up better than the monofilament.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a harder line. And if you really want to get serious about it, go to a fly shop and pick up what they call hard mason. It's a monofilament, but it's super hard.
Mm-hmm.
But the hard mason is, I don't trust the knots on that. That's another one that they don't cinch down like fluorocarbon will. And one other thing that we didn't mention on that, fluorocarbon is stiff. It is it's straight. So when you're twitching a topwater, when you're twitching a lure with braid, a lot of times your lure will jump on your line and it'll come in hooked up all backwards. Mm-hmm. With the fluorocarbon, it stays straight, pointed away from your lure, and I tend to get a lot less fouled lines with the fluorocarbon that way.
I mean,
too.
It'll wrap up into the not the knot, the little,
the split ring.
The split ring, it'll wrap up into that split ring, and you have to clear that and all that other stuff. So no, I'm glad we had this discussion. I'm glad it morphed into this.
Yeah, I mean, like they said, when the leader can help, I'm not going to use it because I don't care about fish not seeing it, but I spent all day today fishing buoys and pylons and had great big heavy fluorocarbon, which I will give Seagar a shout out. I've used the braid that they sent us, and I've used the fluoro they sent us. They've both been good. You'll regret it if you need the leader and don't use it.
Yes,
it's not that much more work to tie it on, and I've had many a redfish, particularly in the Freeport area, cut me off whenever maybe using the leader would have worked for me. But I'm just trying to fix this mic, fellas. I think that
it sounds better now. It sounds better now.
And just before we get off this subject, I have a question for it. I feel like it's my turn to pose a question opposed to John. I shall change roles. So the braid that I spooled on was the like the fluorescent green, super bright green color. And I was like, I'm going to give this a chance. I mean, it's bright, but I use a fluorocarbon leader. So, you know, it's not that close to the fish. It's not close to what they're looking at. But I've always used the moss green, the green line that just blends into the water.
Yeah.
And it looks like blades of grass. It looks like the color of the water. And I've always felt like that was an advantage. But fishing with this bright fluorescent green it seemed to not matter. I mean, I've caught as many or more fish with that line as I did with others that were supposedly invisible in the water.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, I mean, well, I'm sold, and we're definitely gonna keep doing that. It's a regular stop for me, and it should be for you too. Anglers Anonymous in Katy. It's a candy store for fishermen that's gonna make your head spin and help make you a better fisherman. You gotta see the expanded store too, and you gotta chat it up with Mike and Chris Butler, all the guys at Anglers Anonymous. They'll answer your questions honestly, and they'll get you what you need. Reels, rods, lures, they have it all, and apparel that's off the chart. And of course, the calling card service. Real repair, they turn it around for you quickly, and you will be happy. That's Anglers Anonymous in Katy or anglersanonymous.tx.com. But all right, so let's get down to, actually, Caleb, you know, we started the show with a new segment we're going to start every show with, courtesy of Dean Thomas. Not just like, hey, what are you guys up to, but the 3 W's this week. So people, it's almost like a mini, like you do on Anglers Anonymous, kind of reports, but let's be more specific. Where were you, what you did, and what you noticed? And based on your arrival today, it was a little dicey out there today, but some of the things that you fished this week, where you were, what you did, and what you noticed, just so people can kind of guess, get a good gauge of what has happened, and then we'll get to what would Caleb do later.
So 3 W's: windy, wavy, whack. That's what it's been.
We can use that. We can go with that.
When I went to bed last night, man, I had a little grin on my face, and you know, I just got done watching.
And he's done again.
And he muted himself. All right, I got you. Try it again.
There. Son of a. I was so happy about it.
Caleb, where were you at? Where are you fishing today?
I was in Matagorda today.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's supposed to blow 6 to 9, and that was bullshit.
we had a beautiful day today, man. I mean, we had mine was 6 to 9.
Yeah, no, well, mine was 6 to, it started 6 to 9, but then it kept going.
Yeah.
I was in South Texas last week, like, you know, land cut, bapping, stuff like that. Lots and lots of redfish. They're a little finicky. I don't know why. And then today my great ideas, I decided to go triple tailing. I pulled up to the harbor and had my redfish stuff all set up, and I saw one of my buddies, and he said, I'm going triple tailing. I said, we should make a video about that. And he said, jump on. And well, I had fun with my buddy. It was nice to talk to him for the day. We caught like 1 10-pounder. We only had an hour to fish because of the weather. But yeah, where was I? So Matagorda in South Texas. What was I doing? Plastics primarily. We threw live shrimp today.
Okay.
And then the last W, I can't remember, was it whack?
What'd you notice? And it doesn't have to necessarily be like conditions, but maybe things you
I
saw
know
in the water.
I know they're full of crap.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that the water's getting a little greener and a little bit better in Matagorda. The tide, there's not logs floating everywhere. It's maybe another week and a half, 2 weeks. I think we'll get back to all systems normal on, you know, just everywhere having some decent water in it. South Texas, I just noticed, man, those fish they're really, really finicky. You had to be real quiet and have a really good approach. Even the guys waiting were saying that they weren't. They said, we're not catching much. I said, well, I'm telling you right now, they're all around you, so they're finicky for them too.
Oh, good. All right, let's do something else here, because over the course of time, you know, I get questions that are not necessarily like a full topic. But I want to get to them. Our listeners have questions for the 3 captains in front of us, Dean, Caleb, and Scott. So I'm gonna go through basically dumping the inbox. All right. So I'm gonna clear my inbox here. Questions that might not be full-fledged, you know, topics, where we take a deep dive like we just did with the leaders and such, but something that we can do and address. So I'm going to start, I guess, with Scott. I think, and anybody jump in anytime here, but Scott, I'm going to start with you. One of the questions we got was, how do you handle deeply hooked fish, cutting the line versus trying to get it out versus where it's hooked, etc.?
Cut the line.
Always.
I mean, if it's down there in their throat, what I consider deep, yeah, you can cut the line. If it's in a gill and way back there in a gill, sometimes you can go from the outside of the gill, like with a single hook. If it's a jig, if it's a treble hook, it ain't a whole lot you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna cut off a $10 plug, and let it swim off. Nah, probably not. If it's soft plastic and it's way down there, and luckily the big plugs, they don't typically swallow those too much. But unless or you could keep the fish, and your buddy could tell you that he's going to get it out when he cleans the fish, and then he just throws it in the water with the head, and it sinks to the bottom.
Who might you be talking about there?
Yeah, if you trust your buddy enough to get your lure back, you can do that.
Go ahead,
man.
Caleb.
I'm standing there like, why are you looking at me, man? Why are you watching me? What? It's like, leave me. And then I threw that head, and he's like, what the hell did you do that for? And I was like, what, man? What? I was like, yeah, that happened.
It's kind of hard to miss a big old lure like that.
No, man. I wasn't cutting in the head. It was in his throat. I cut the fillets off, and the old head went in the water with the lure in it.
Yeah.
$12.
Go ahead, Caleb.
I got a cut the line story that I wish I'd have documented it. We caught a pretty good trout, like 22, 23-inch trout. And it was the only thing sticking on that little butthole in the back of his throat was the jig head, like just the lead on it. You could just see the lead because the customer didn't know he caught it. It ran at him and kind of swallowed it up a little bit, And I was like, well, that trout's screwed. But I don't carry ice on my boat because I'm not planning on keeping fish. And so what I do when I do have to keep one is I throw it in my live well and I circulate the water to keep the coolest water on it possible.
Yeah.
And we cut the line, we threw it in the live well, and it was a 4/0 wide gap jig head hook with a plastic on it. And we fished like 3 or 4 or 5 more hours, something like that. And my customer has a house on the river, so we stopped there to clean fish. I think we kept like a couple redfish too or something. And open up the live well, and this trout is just bouncing off the wall. The entire lure is laying in the bottom of the live well.
He spit it out.
I can't imagine how he did it, but the entire lure, the jig head, everything was laying in the bottom of the live well. The trout was perfectly fine. Because I've had people tell me that if you cut the line, they have a better chance. I mean, obviously, they have a better chance to survive than if you just throw them in the cooler.
Yeah.
But I would never believe that they could get that jig head out of their little butthole back there, whatever that's called.
So did you reward that fish by letting him swim away?
I can't remember.
Or was he still a goner? Like, hey, good job. And then now here's a.
I think he got a pass into the river. I really think he did. Because I remember cleaning fish because we cleaned some redfish. But I think the trout got a pass.
Atta baby. All right, here we're dumping the inbox here. Anybody who wants to jump in. What are the best lenses to use? Inshore versus offshore, and overcast versus sunny. Obviously, sunglasses.
Yeah, I got that one. I got that one sent to me, so that's one I sent over to you. A copper base for sight casting on the shallow flats, a gray base on the beachfront when you're not really caring about picking out something off the bottom. You need more coverage. The gray's more soothing, and out on the beachfront, it's a lot more harsh, and on you just got more sun coming at you and glare. And the yellow for the overcast days and early morning. Every sunglass company has those 3 colors. They all call them something different, but it's a copper base. As far as the mirror goes, the mirror adds 2% shading to your eyes, and it's more cosmetic than it is anything else. I mean, everybody likes the mirror. It's cool. But it doesn't. Silver mirror, green mirror, blue mirror, it's all the same. None of that makes any difference. Typical sunglasses are around 10%, cut about 10% of the light. And then when you add the at least with Costa, it was 10% and then 12% if you had the mirror. So if you're really
Okay.
sensitive to bright light, the mirror probably helps a little bit.
What about fog?
The yellow.
That's what I use. I
anytime
wanted to
you-
make sure I was right on that.
Anytime you got low light, I think Costa's calling theirs sunrise.
Mhm,
And so I've got the sunrise with a silver mirror on it.
mhm.
And I put those on like first thing in the morning running out. I started wearing them. Used to, I didn't wear sunglasses on the way out a lot, but I wear them a little bit more now because I took a bug to the eye a while back running down the intercoastal, and it would have been nice to have the glasses on.
Mhm.
But you can pick out like crab traps and things that are on the water kind of jump out at you with those yellow glasses on in that low light.
Yeah.
And helps in the fog too.
All right, Caleb, I'm going to do this one with you to start, and anybody jump in as you want. Just let me know. This is from a questioner. A listener said, superstitions the Bite Me crew might have that they can admit to, and the craziest superstitions you've seen, perhaps from clients. He said he doesn't take the net. The listener said he never takes the net out of the hatch until at least 2 fish have been caught. He also has 2 beers in the cooler for the ride home. We're not passing judgment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I am very much against taking the net out before the first fish is caught, like, and or
Mhm.
until I need it. I'm not gonna get
Yeah.
somewhere and just take the net out. Be like, I'm ready, boys.
Let's go. That's a kiss of death.
My cowboy days are that I can't put a hat on the bed. I won't do it. So if I'm gone somewhere fishing a tournament or anything, my cap won't go on the bed. And since a couch could be considered a bed at times, I won't set my cap on a couch. I'm very much into that. And
Really? That's
no
a good
head
one.
coverings. Yeah, no
Yeah.
head coverings going. Anything you can sleep on. It's to me that's just the way I was taught.
Yeah.
The net would probably be the one that happens in the boat. The
Yeah.
hats on apparatuses bad. I don't particularly care about bananas or all any of that
Yeah.
stuff. I bet Dean has some good ones.
Yeah, Gene, I know
And
you've got weirdest superstitions you've seen. I know you recently had a banana experience, didn't you?
Well, I didn't used to believe in the banana, but after that day, that was a horrible banana curse.
So tell us the story.
And well, here what was crazy is that if you brought the banana, why the hell didn't you eat it?
Yeah.
He took the banana home with him at the end of the day. The banana stayed on the boat
A whole
and
day.
then he left with it. I was like, what the hell did you bring it for? You should have ate that thing 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, the common one is you can't drink a beer until you catch the first fish. I have guys do that a lot.
Mhm.
But I mean, myself personally, I mean, I don't have a lot of superstitions, but I wear my lucky underwear every day.
You
Same
do?
ones.
Yeah, well, you do that anyway.
Yeah, the same ones every day.
Any,
we were pulling up to a spot this morning, and I grabbed my can of Copenhagen out of my pocket, and the guy I was fishing with looked at me all panicked. He's like, Jesus Christ, you haven't had a dip in all morning? No wonder we haven't caught one yet.
he was using you as a superstition.
Yeah.
Scott, I know you've had some weird superstitions on your boat.
Mostly it's the you can't drink a beer until you catch a fish. But I'm just not superstitious about anything. I throw a banana on my boat, I'm gonna eat that son of a gun. I mean, we had a tournament where I ate one. They slipped them into our kayaks and hit them in our kayaks, and I won the tournament. And then I had Dean take a picture of me eating the banana.
Yeah, then you're enjoying a nutritious snack.
Yeah, it was awesome. I appreciated it. But the one that hits most often is catching a fish on the first cast of the day.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it's a superstition necessarily, but dadgum if it doesn't work out that way. I mean,
it turns into a superstition.
I can't tell you how often that happens. And I think there's a real reason for it. I think the bite was, early, like late night into the morning. and you
Mhm.
just caught the tail end of a good bite. And
Yeah.
you pulled up on your first spot, you threw in there, you caught a fish, and then the bite shut off.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I have any other superstitions than what you mentioned. I don't think so. Although I will say, she caught a fish on her first cast yesterday, and we actually had a pretty good day. But I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh Lord, we're done. That's it. But we actually ended up having a good day.
A huge bite killer is somebody that isn't planning on keeping fish, and then you catch 2 or 3 real fast. And they go, you know what? Let's keep some. You ain't gonna catch them.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
Oh yeah, no, this is gonna be easy. Let's go ahead and keep some. We'll cook them tonight. You're done.
Yeah.
Just go home.
Yeah.
One of them I hate to hear is it's been windy all morning, and all of a sudden it lays down. Starts laying.
Oh
down, and somebody mentions it.
Yeah.
Says,
Wind's starting to lay down.
wind sure is laying down.
Yeah.
It happened today. It was windy this morning, and then it started laying down. And the dude that owned the boat we were in, not either one of the captains, just the dude that owned the boat that was with us, he said, "Man, this wind's really starting to lay." And I looked at him and said, "We don't talk about that." And 45 minutes later, it's white capping again.
Yeah. That's the calm before the storm.
We do not talk about favorable weather.
Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, like, obviously, I mentioned Jan this a little while ago. She doesn't know any of these things, and I always have to remind her, nope, don't do that. Nope, don't say that. Nope, no, nope, don't bring bananas. Nope, don't do this and that. But it's kind of refreshing, though, to see it through her eyes all start, and especially getting, the bug like she's got right now. But all right, another one, dump in the inbox here. What's the weirdest thing a client ever wanted to keep, as in to eat, and how did you handle it? Obviously, I've said it in the past. Scott, I'll start with you. But my dad used to keep every gaff top. He loved him some gaff top, and some people do, but it was a non-starter. We're keeping the gaff top.
And I've never had anybody want to keep anything weird on the boat like that. To keep the fit. For take home to eat. Now, Dean will keep anything that he finds on the shoreline. I mean, he got out with me. He was in Galveston with me, and he jumped out of the boat and went walking on the shoreline. He came back with an armload. Looked like
I love beach combing.
Treasures.
And then, the thing about the gaff top, when you're fishing, especially in the summertime, when you're fishing those deeper drop-offs, gaff top are mixed in with those trout. And the conversation always goes to, those things are good to eat. I'll never know. I will never ever find out, because that slimy thing ain't going in my cooler. I mean, it's just, I'll have the chicken sandwich, thank you, before I eat the gaff top.
Let's talk about taking your game to another level. Let's talk about Sawgrass rods. If you haven't heard, they're taking over the inshore, offshore, and fly rod game. Sawgrass rods, Colin Zillich, the whole gang over there are going to make sure that you've got the right rod. We throw Sawgrass rods, and Sawgrass is the next level of rod. I'm telling you, when you order a Sawgrass rod, if you don't like what you ordered, return it. They'll pay for the shipping. That's the way it is, and that's the way you can trust Sawgrass rods, sawgrassrods.com. Yeah.
Well, hey, I fished with a guy who he kept every gaff top that we caught.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And we took him to the car wash on the way home when we stopped and washed the boat. And he had a board and a bunch of long nails, and he'd drive a nail through their head and then hit them with the power washer at the car wash.
Okay. Get all the slime off.
Yep. Well,
Caleb,
he also still holds the state record for a gaff top. So his name's still in the record books. I checked it not long ago.
He knows his gaff top. Caleb, anybody want to keep something that you're like, really?
I sent a dude home with a bed full of Jack Crevalle one time. And I tell you how I handled it. The Jack Crevalle went in the bed and I sent him home.
Here you go.
It wasn't like little cute ones either. It was big honking offshore ones.
Oh, gross.
Now, I had a friend, a Japanese friend. His mom didn't hardly speak any English. And that's one of the guys I went to school with. And we caught a big old jack one day, and got it, and I'm throwing it back. And he starts yelling at me, "Don't throw it back. My mom wouldn't want that." I said, "She don't want that." And he insisted. We drug that thing home, and she was all excited. And like I said, she didn't speak hardly any English. And she's just thanking me. And I drove off thinking, man, I don't know about that. And then I got the invite for dinner.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And it was a very formal Japanese dinner. You know, his sister and his mom serving us, and it was only the men eating in the dining room, and very
man.
formal. And
Did you sit on the floor with your shoes off?
it was awesome. I don't
Really?
know what she did to the damn thing, but it was like 6 courses, and it was everything we ate was good.
And so
Dang.
a buddy of mine actually took, and I mean, y'all, Scott knows him, Henry, my buddy Henry that I fished with forever, took a Jack Crevalle home, seared it like tuna. And he told me, he still raves about this. He's like, he just on how delicious it was seared as tuna style. And once again, I'm going to have to take his word for it. I will never know. But then the bonita, I mean, there's times when we get bonita at the jetties, and I was curious. I mean, so I go to YouTube, bonita recipes, and they show the dude, you know, clean it. And so bonita have like 2 distinct muscles inside. One is really dark red, one is not as red. And so many people told me that bonita are inedible, you know, shark bait's all they're good for. I seared bonita at like tuna. It was delicious. So you never know, I guess. I don't know, man.
I guess.
And I keep saying,
I have to try the Jack on that, as you know, like
Yeah.
a tuna. Well, hell, what the hell? Try it. You don't have to keep eating it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
You know,
then,
if it works,
Mhm.
think how much money we could save buying tuna.
Yeah.
oh
That's
man,
a lot of
I like
Jack.
seared
too.
tuna.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the conversation on hardheads, which erupts on the Port A fishing page, they get into the hardhead argument like once a week. And I keep saying that I'm going to snag some of those hardheads under the table.
Get the albino.
Nah, he's too cute. I can't eat. I've
big
become
buddy.
emotionally attached to Whitey.
Whitey.
I saw him today.
You
But
did?
I mean, yeah. I mean, everything that swims out there is edible. I mean, people tell me about stingrays, you know, that they cut the wings off the stingrays and cook that.
I've had someone back in the day. So funny you mentioned that. It's been 25 years making scallops out of the stingrays. And
I've heard.
I
the
don't
story.
remember eating them. Maybe I did, but they said they were delicious. Like just like almost like with a cookie cutter. You make
Right.
scallops out of the stingray.
Nope.
I would try that. I think I might have. I don't remember exactly. It's been so long. And then I told the story here before about a buddy of mine when we were in college and we went fishing, and all we were catching was hardheads. And he says, "I'm eating them. I'm eating them." And I said, "I am not." And so he cooked up some hardhead. I said, "What does it taste like?" And he said, "Ketchup." Because he just doused it with ketchup.
Hey man, and I've told the story on here about the mullet, eating mullet in Florida. Whenever I made a little sarcastic joke, and dude was gonna punch me in the face. I mean, he was offended that I disrespected his mullet. And I was like, I'm a guest here. I'm sorry. I said, I will eat whatever you serve. And the mullet was delicious. I mean, but it was crispy fried, and it was good. So the next time, John, when you come over next time, we're gonna cook some stingray. We're gonna cook some hardhead.
I'll bring a little cookie cutter
and a Jack Crevalle, and we'll do a little taste test.
I've always heard that if you've had bay scallops at a seafood restaurant in Texas, you were eating stingray.
Maybe
I've heard that. Yep.
I mean, have any of us? We've all been on the bay our whole lives. Have any of us ever seen a bay scallop?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Nope. You gotta. They live under the sand, so you see people. They go with a stick. They go walk the edges with the little stick, and they stab it. And when they hit one, they dig it up. I have seen people dig them up.
Or they just gig a stingray.
No. Oh well.
That's what they tell you they're doing. But they're really just gigging. Man, I saw so many.
Have you ever put a jellyfish on your toast in the morning?
God no. God no. Don't even start with that. All right, one more. Dumping the old inbox before we get to what Scott doing, Caleb and Dean. And this is an interesting. I think Perry I think Perry texted this one. Talking about just securing his boat. He said he's going to come down. Obviously, you know, he drags his boat. He's going to come down to the feeding frenzy. Caleb, you might be real good on this. Do you just take everything out of your boat? He says, what do you do to secure your boat when you're traveling? Do you take everything out? What's been your closest call, best stories, etc.?
For this.
Yeah, because Caleb might just leave everything. Yeah.
I don't even take the towel off the console, dude. Dean's Drift Box got them cute little bags. They're just flying in the breeze back there. I used to take stuff out until I realized I couldn't lose a Snickers wrapper from under my console on an 8-hour ride, and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's really not that big a deal." No, I mean, I kind of just shove the stuff up under the console. Sometimes I make sure that the trolling motor's pinned. Your boat's lighter and pulls better whenever it isn't pinned.
Mm-hmm.
But am I breaking up right now?
No, you're not. I'm just trying to absorb all that because not even your rods.
How
I
does
take
that
go in the passenger seat.
how
There's
does
actually
that affect pulling the boat? If the pin,
well,
how
it's
does
lighter. It's lighter when the trolling motor ain't on it. Stupid.
Oh, you're taking the
mean,
trolling motor.
how much difference could that make to the weight of the boat? What do you
I
got?
didn't notice any difference when it fell off.
That's what he's talking about right there.
It rode like a solid 20 miles, which is the impressive part.
Yeah, he only knows that because we talked about it on here and somebody actually returned it to him.
That's right.
It's a pretty big deal. I do take my rods out. I don't leave them sticking up in the air. I get my boat as low as possible because I got all this stuff that sticks up. I don't like things sticking in the air. I don't like things that catch wind and drag wind. But I take my rods out, turn off my Perco, get in the truck, latch it, and roll. I don't think I've ever blown anything out. It's deceptively hard to blow something out from under your console. It really is.
I lost the Yeti once. I lost the Yeti. I didn't have the Yeti strapped down. It was just my own fault, and I actually saw it. I heard something, and I looked in the rearview mirror. It's bouncing around. I just went back, picked it up, put it back in, tied it down.
I got to the boat ramp one day, and my back seat on my boat detaches and screws in and screws out. And I got the boat ramp one day, and it was stuck between the motor and the power pole, and that was kind of an oh shit moment because somebody showed up at the house to talk to me before I pinned it down, and then I drove off, and no telling how long that thing balanced there on the way to Mexico. And I think those things were like $1,000.
Yeah. Scott, one thing I did learn is make sure you latch every cooler on the boat because they tend to open up on the road and they turn into sails and they might sail right on out of your boat. But what about like storing it? Like when I used to go to Sabine before I got my trailer, I would always park underneath the light, take everything out that I could, not everything, but everything that I thought was important, and park right underneath the light in a little hotel that I stayed at there. And I had somebody tell me, don't park under the light. You don't want them to see it because they'll just come in and get it. And I never thought of it that way.
Nah, I'd park under the light.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, thieves like the dark.
Yeah.
If they're going to steal something, they'll have a flashlight, if they're going to rummage around in it. I always, when I did do some traveling like that, on the tournament side, we just brought everything into the hotel room because everything we brought, we really needed for the tournament. Yeah. And it would be a really bad day the next day to wake up and not have it. So we just always brought everything inside. Our hotel room, it looked like a tackle shop, boat repair shop. We had extra props. We had all kind of stuff in there.
Oh, you took the extra props in even.
Yeah, we took the extra props in. Props are expensive, man.
Oh, I know.
You leave one of them props up in there and somebody grab that would be good.
Yeah.
As far as I know he's storing his boat down here now. One of the things that some people don't do, and I always did it when I kept my boat in storage. And when I was able to, I was on police department, I was fishing, every other week, one day here, one day there, and the boat might sit for a while if I got on a big case or something. It might not get to go out for a while. Open all the hatches and leave all the hatches open inside your storage unit.
Mhm.
And that way you don't have all that mold up inside there. It's bad. Take the life jackets out because there's always a little bit of moisture on those life jackets. And I used to take them out, and I had a rope that I strung them up on and just hung them. And just anything that you can do to air it out a little bit. I know a couple of people that had gone so far as to put dehumidifiers in their boat storage, but that seems like a little bit too much for me. But yeah, opening everything up, all the hatches, everything, and let it sit that way.
That's just something I need to do more. I know that we've talked to obviously JT over at the boatyard. He always says open your hatches after you wash it down. I just constantly forget. That's something I just need to do. Yeah.
I did it the other day out here because I had a little moisture inside the hatch on the Sabine, and I opened them up and went inside, and we had caught one of them little showers. And so I ended up having to leave it open longer because it got better inside there than it had been.
I'll leave mine open the whole. I plug it in. I leave all the hatches open. But my JH, there's always that little door on your boat where you can see the water separator and the little all that stuff.
Mhm.
The way mine is, when I open it, it balances against the transom, and so I'll actually open that on the ride home, and then open all my plugs where there's wind going in it and blowing through my boat to kind of assist the drying out. Because once you let that mold get in there ain't no getting it out. It's impossible to clean out of it. So
Yeah.
100%.
No, man, you get some of that Clorox cleaner in a spray bottle, mist it, turns snowy white again.
See,
I don't have that experience.
Dean is like me. He constantly forgets to open them. I know I should. I just don't do it enough.
Well, you're not going to do it where you keep yours, sitting on a sling like that.
Yeah, I mean, but it does, even under the console, will get mildew. And man, once every 2 months or so, I just pull everything out, put a little spritzer of the Clorox cleaner, and man, it makes it nice. I actually mixed up my boat. The deck was getting horrible stuff that wouldn't power wash off. And I took in a pump up spray can, I mixed like 50-50 bleach and water, just put a little mist on it, let it set for, man, about 30-45 minutes, came back, pressure washed it. That thing was shiny like new.
You can, because I probably mix it heavier. I bet I'm like 2 to 1. I got a backpack sprayer with bleach and water. I spray it on there, and then it takes about 2 beers. After 2 beers, then when you pressure wash it, you can just like see the crap run off of it. It's great.
Oh yeah. See there, you guys, man. Yeah, that's good stuff with cleaning out the old.
Barry wanted a story about the best story of stuff falling out. Old Brendan Larson, who runs the Sea Tow down here. We've talked about him a couple of times. I was going into Port O'Connor here a little while back, and he's on the same little lane road here that I'm on. And I saw him go by as I was pulling out on the lane. I saw the Sea Tow truck. He's pulling some little junky little boat. It wasn't his Sea Tow boats. And turns out it was a buddy's boat. But as he turned onto 185 and he picked up speed, bait bucket came flying out, a cooler came flying out, a drift sock flew out. and he's driving pretty fast. So I was trying to keep up with him. And finally, I was going to pull up beside him and point back, say, hey, stuff's blowing out. So I just, hell with it. I just called him. I got his phone number. I called him up. I said, hey, man, you might want to slow down a little bit and turn around and go back and start picking stuff up.
Oh, crap. Hey, and the last thing before we get to what would everybody do here? I caught 2 trout on the Frenzy Tackle Plastics. I threw them yesterday from our guy, Dylan McWilliams, and so I threw the little, it's kind of brownish. It was great. I caught a couple trout on it, and I did see Dean's boat nice and sparkly clean as well. All right.
Oh, so wait a minute. Wait, I forgot. Here's one. Shout out to John. The day after the tournament, whenever me and Kevin have been fishing, we walked away from the boat. There were 2 kayaks in there. Shit. We waited. We stepped mud, trashed. Boat was freaking trashed. I was tapped out. We went to that tournament. We sat there for hours in line to weigh in. It was getting late. I texted John. I was like, man, None's going to happen tonight. We're stuck here. So me and Kevin were at the end of the night when we were headed home. I was like, dude, if we don't do this tonight, we're not going to want to do it in the morning. I said, let's just go knock it out. And then we had fish from the tournament because it was a weigh-in. So we had dead fish. I had 6 reds to clean. I was like, I didn't want to do this. We go to the boat. I pull up to the boat. Kayaks are laying on the ground. Coolers upside down, washed out. Boat sparkling ass clean. So Lopez passed by there, washed my boat for me.
How about that? My wife gave me a hard time about that. She goes, "That's what boyfriends do."
All right. Well, I washed Jimmy's boat.
Dude, that thing was trash. I felt bad because I went to rinse off my boat and there was only like 2 little bird turds on it. It was real easy. So I'm driving by. I said, I'll knock this out. I was planning on cleaning a boat anyway, but that ice chest was a little rank.
And after you commented today, I was walking through Sam's Club. We were shopping for the weekend, and they had this badass 150 quart igloo cooler, $89. So I trashed that piece of crap cooler that's been in the back of the boat. I think I've had that for like 3 boats, and I still kept the hatches, the hinges.
I'm aware. I'm aware.
And the plastic was starting to chip off the corners. And so today I got me a brand new shiny cooler.
Yeah.
Just dropped it in the boat.
There you go. Well, it was nothing really. Anyway, what would Scott do? What would Dean do? What would Caleb do? Caleb, you've been all over the place. You know what's coming up this weekend, just like the other fellas. What would you tell our guys they need to do this week and this weekend if they're going to fish?
Man, this weekend looks pretty decent. Wade early, drifting would probably be my game, to be honest. But this week it's probably the best looking weekend in a long time. Assuming these idiots that I'm getting this forecast from do a better job this weekend than they did today. I'm gonna invade Scott Knowles territory tomorrow morning. I just ain't told him yet. That's what I'm gonna go do. It's 4th of July though. More so than going fishing. Have your life jacket and your fire extinguisher and your whistle, because we are raising funds this weekend, boys. We're raising funds. Me personally, I'm going to be in Rosenberg watching Needville play for the state championship on their way to a 2nd Little League World Series.
How about that?
That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Scott, you were nodding your head, and I was nodding my head too. You're going to be stopped.
Coast Guard's going to be out there. Parks and Wildlife's going to be out there. And if you're in Port O'Connor and you're going to run over to Sunday Beach or Saturday Beach or whichever beach you decide to go to, they are going to stop you. I mean, just count on it. Have yourself a designated driver. You know, the other folks on there can have their fun and pop a few, but whoever's driving that boat, do not be drinking, because they are going to stop you. And I mean, it's every holiday weekend around here they do that. Mm-hmm. And every holiday weekend I see people getting cuffed.
Yep. And 4th of July weekend, I am not going to be going fishing. As nice as the conditions are going to be, I'm going to be in Dripping Springs and having a little long weekend with the family. And Parkoff just texted about it's going to be a bleep show. Shout out to Parkoff as well. I got my John the OG Lopez fish taco. It's already on my boat. Good to go. Dean, you got anything to add before we get out of here?
No, man. I'm just barbecuing, and I figured if I did go on my boat, I was going to go run right through the crowd with some Roman candles or something that would pop, make some really good noise, man. Right in the
while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Don't be drunk while you're doing it.
Yeah.
No.
Fireworks are okay.
No, man, I was thinking put a big flag on the boat and like point Roman candles out the back and light them while I'm running across the water. And I figured that would just be cool.
I'm the most colorful damn fishing guide in the world.
Yeah. And just run right through the middle of everybody. Just circles.
Oh,
I'm
man.
I think I'm going to go work on some tarpon.
Okay. You can do that. Yeah, you can do that. It'll be laying down a little bit.
Supposed to be 1 to 2 at like 6 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be choppy, but Scott's boat will be good for it.
Yeah. That's 6 seconds is not great, but not bad. Not bad.
Our old boy Curtis Leaker that's always on here. He's usually on here. You don't see him today. But he sent me a little message, and he got into some the other day. But did you notice that, John, as we were going there, that the fellow whose junky boat was being pulled by Brennan?
I did not.
Yeah,
in the
he Colby there. He says,
It was
"That
Colby's
my
boat?"
junky
Him, Kobe.
Colby was losing everything. Colby was losing.
I said, man, junkie was probably a little harsh.
Yeah,
mean,
well,
that's-
that's all right.
But he said it was a project boat. Yeah, he said that was the start of this project boat.
And Perry
So,
said you needed to do the Roman candle thing in my boat because you got me in trouble once already. Cutting
Yeah,
people off in my
that makes
boat.
way more sense than doing it in my boat.
I'm gonna be getting arrested in Dripping Springs. All right, boys, really good stuff, man. I'm gonna have to empty the old inbox some more often, and really appreciate you guys. It is a holiday weekend. Hopefully, our guys right here are gonna have a great holiday weekend, fishing or not fishing with their families, and you do as well. We're gonna do the show next week, and then we're gonna have a special episode with Cody Kreft on oysters and some of the farm raised oysters and stuff, and some interviews and such. Dean, Scott's going to ICAST. We got a lot of stuff brewing here. Don't forget all the stuff I told you about the feeding frenzy. Get on there. It's the pinned at the top of the group page. All those messages. You can get your hotel. You can RSVP. You can get your raffle tickets. Just go through there and get it done. Really appreciate you guys. Caleb, I know you were up against it. Appreciate you coming in late as well, but still making it. You guys have a great week, great weekend, great 4th of July. Catch them up. We'll talk to you next time.
Screw the weather, man.